By the time winter reached the high ridge, she had already lost everything. No family, no home, no name anyone still spoke. The wind knew her better than people did. Each night it pressed against her like a question with no answer. She had walked until her feet no longer felt the ground beneath them, walked away from grief, from shame, from a life that had quietly ended. And if fate had not placed one silent mountain man in her path that day, the ridge would have claimed her too.
Before this story continues, take a moment to settle in. If you believe even the most broken hearts deserve a second chance, please like this video and subscribe to Rescued by the Ridge. These stories live because you listen. Now, let me tell you how it began. She arrived at the edge of the ridge with nothing but a thin coat and a heart worn raw by loss. No horse followed behind her. No wagon tracks marked her path. Just one woman walking alone into the mountains, where most people went only if they had no other choice. The settlement below barely noticed her. A few smoke trails curled into the pale sky. Doors stayed shut, faces turned away. In places like this, strangers were trouble, and trouble was something no one could afford. She stood there for a long moment, arms wrapped tight around herself, not for warmth alone, but for comfort, the kind she had not known in a long time. Her name had once been spoken with care. Once someone had waited for her to come home. Once she belonged somewhere. Those days were gone. The road behind her held nothing but memories she could not carry anymore. A family buried by time and hardship, a promise that had faded before it ever had the chance to grow. One by one, the threads of her life had come undone until she was left holding nothing at all. She had not come to the ridge looking for hope. Hope felt dangerous now, too fragile, too easy to lose. She came because there was nowhere else to go. Night crept in early at this height. The cold settled fast, slipping through her coat and into her bones. She found a spot near a stand of pine trees, just far enough from the settlement to remain unseen. She lowered herself to the ground slowly, as if the earth itself might reject her. Her stomach ached, but hunger had long stopped being her greatest pain. Loneliness pressed harder. She watched the last light fade from the sky and wondered if anyone would notice if she never moved again, if the ridge would remember her footsteps, or if the wind would smooth them away by morning. Somewhere higher up, unseen by her tired eyes, a figure stood still among the trees, watching. And for the first time in a long while, she was not as alone as she believed. The ridge had a way of hiding things. Old trails, forgotten camps, people who wished not to be found. It rose above the settlement like a silent witness, watching seasons pass without judgment. Snow came early here, winds spoke louder than men, and those who lived nearby learned quickly to respect its moods. The woman did not know any of that as she sat beneath the pines. Her eyes followed the darkening sky, heavy and unfocused. Each breath came slow, as if her body was already deciding how much strength it could spare. Above her, the man remained still. He knew the ridge well, every bend of stone, every hollow where cold liked to settle. He had walked these slopes for years, long enough to learn when a storm was coming and when a person was in trouble. And she was in trouble. He did not step forward, not yet. Men like him learned early that sudden movements caused fear. Fear made people run, and running in the mountains at night often ended badly. Instead, he watched. Her shoulders shook once, then stilled. She did not cry. She simply folded in on herself, as though trying to become smaller, easier for the world to overlook. The wind shifted. He felt it against his face and frowned. Cold would deepen before morning, the kind that crept quiet and stayed. Below, the settlement's lamps blinked out one by one. No one climbed the ridge after dark unless they had reason, and no one came looking for a woman they had barely seen. The ridge kept its secrets because people let it. The man took a single step forward, careful not to break a branch. His boots made no sound on the packed earth. He stopped again, studying her, not with hunger, not with judgment, with concern that sat heavy and unfamiliar in his chest. He had learned to live without that feeling. She shifted slightly, rubbing her hands together. The motion was weak, tired. Her strength was fading faster than she realized. The man glanced toward the tree line behind him. His shelter was not far, solid, warm, safe. He had built it to keep the world out. Now the world had followed him home. He hesitated longer than he should have, not because he did not care, but because caring once had cost him everything. Below the ridge, a lone branch cracked under the weight of frost. The woman flinched and lifted her head. For the first time that night, her eyes searched the darkness, and somewhere just beyond her sight, the man finally made a choice.
The choice he made was not a loud one. There was no sudden rush forward, no call of warning, only a slow step into the open. The woman's breath caught when she saw him. At first, she thought he was part of the ridge itself, a shadow shaped like a man, tall, still, wrapped in the same quiet as the trees around him. She pushed herself back on her hands, heart racing. Fear came easy now. It always did when you had nothing left to lose. "I won't trouble you," she said, her voice thin and unsure. "I'll be gone by morning." The man stopped where the moonlight touched him. He did not come closer. He did not turn away. "You're too high for that," he said. His voice was low, roughened by cold air and long silences, not unkind. She swallowed. "I didn't know." Most don't. He stood there, hands open at his sides, no threat in his posture, no hurry in his stance, the kind of man who had learned patience from watching seasons turn. She studied him then. His coat was worn but well kept. His beard caught traces of frost. His eyes, dark beneath the brim of his hat, held something steady, something careful. "You live up here?" she asked. "I do." A pause settled between them, thick but not heavy. "There's a storm coming. Not tonight, soon." She looked past him, toward the dark slope climbing higher, then back to the ground beneath her. "I won't be in the way." He shook his head once. "This ridge doesn't belong to me." The wind moved through the pines again, colder now, more certain. She pulled her coat tighter, though it did little good. He noticed. He always noticed small things. It was how he had survived so long. "You got a place to sleep?" he asked. She did not answer right away. Her eyes drifted to the shadows between the trees, then lowered. "No." The word fell soft, but it landed hard. The man exhaled slowly, not in frustration, in resolve. "There's a lean-to not far from here. Wind won't reach it much." She looked up sharply. Suspicion flickered across her face. "Why?" He met her gaze, held it. "Because no one should face the ridge alone," he said. For a long second, she said nothing. Then, with shaking hands, she rose to her feet. And for the first time since she had reached the mountain, she followed someone else's footsteps into the dark. They walked in silence, the ridge guiding their steps more than words ever could. The man moved ahead, slow and steady, choosing his footing with care.
He did not rush her. He did not look back often. Somehow that made it easier for her to follow. Her legs trembled with each step. The ground sloped unevenly and cold pressed deeper into her joints. Still, she said nothing. Pride had not left her yet. It had simply learned how to stay quiet. After a short climb, the trees opened just enough to reveal a small shelter tucked against the rock. Rough-hewn boards, a slanted roof weighted with stone, built not for comfort, but for survival. The man stopped beside it and stepped aside. "Best spot on this side of the ridge," he said. "Keeps the wind off." She hesitated at the entrance. Years of disappointment had taught her that kindness often carried a cost. She searched his face for expectation, for demand. There was none. "Thank you," she said at last. He nodded once, as if thanks were something simple, ordinary. Inside, the air was still, cold but calmer. She sank onto the ground with a tired breath she had been holding all night. The man knelt near the entrance and struck a small flame. Soon a gentle warmth crept through the space, faint but real. From his pack he took a piece of bread, dry, plain. He broke it in half and held one piece out. She stared at it as if it might vanish. "I can't," she began. "You should," he said. "It's late." Her hands shook as she accepted it. Hunger rushed in all at once, sharp and sudden. She ate slowly, forcing herself not to rush, not to embarrass herself with need. The man turned away while she ate, giving her privacy she had not known she missed. When she finished, she realized her eyes were burning. She did not cry. Instead, she spoke. "I won't stay long." "You don't have to decide anything tonight," he said. Another pause. "You got a name?" he asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. The answer felt heavier than it should have. "Not one that matters anymore," she said. He accepted that. No questions, no pressure. "I'll check on you in the morning," he said, "storm or no storm." She watched him step back into the darkness. Just before he disappeared, he stopped. The ridge can be cruel, but it remembers who shows respect. Then he was gone. She lay back against the cold earth, staring at the low roof above her. For the first time in days, her body began to rest. Outside, unseen, the man did not go far. And neither of them yet understood how much that small act would change everything.
Morning came slowly on the ridge, not with warmth, but with light that crept careful between the trees. She woke before the sun cleared the peaks. For a moment she did not know where she was. Then the memory of the shelter, the bread, and the quiet man returned to her all at once. Her body ached, but it was a dull ache now, manageable, the kind that came from living, not from giving up. She sat up and listened. The ridge was never truly silent. Wind brushed against stone, branches shifted. Somewhere far off, a bird called out, sharp and brief. Life was still moving, even here. Outside, a figure stood near a small fire, coaxing it awake. He did not look surprised when she stepped into the open. "You slept," he said. "Yes? That's good." He handed her a cup made from tin, warm water, no questions, no ceremony. She wrapped her hands around it and let the heat sink in. Her gaze stayed low, fixed on the ground between her boots. "I don't plan to stay," she said, though the words sounded uncertain even to her. "You already said that," he replied gently. She took a breath, then another. The ridge seemed to lean in, listening. "I had a family once." He did not interrupt. "They're gone now, one by one, not all at once. That would have been easier." Her voice wavered but did not break. "After that, there was a place I thought I belonged. I was wrong." She stopped there,
as if the rest of the story were too heavy to lift. He stirred the fire with a stick, slow, patient. "People leave, places change." She nodded. "And some of us don't know where to go after." The words hung between them, honest, exposed. He glanced toward the ridgeline. "I know that feeling." She looked up then, really looked at him, at the lines carved by wind and time, at the way his shoulders carried more than just the weight of his pack. "You live alone?" she asked. "Yes." "By choice?" He paused. "At first." Another silence settled, this one deeper. "I'm not asking you to fix anything," she said quietly. "I just needed to say it out loud." He met her eyes. "Sometimes that's enough." A cold gust swept through the clearing, stronger than before. Clouds were gathering low over the peaks. The storm he had warned her about was closer now. He rose to his feet. "You should stay near the shelter today." "And you?" "I'll be close." She watched him move away, blending once more with the ridge. Her chest felt tight, but not for fear this time, with something else. Because for the first time since losing everything, someone knew her story, and he had not walked away.
The clouds gathered by midday, low and heavy. They pressed against the peaks like a held breath. The ridge felt smaller when the sky closed in, more intimate, more honest. She stayed near the shelter, as he had suggested. She gathered fallen branches and stacked them neatly, needing something to do with her hands. Idleness invited memories. She was not ready for those yet. The man returned as the light began to thin. Snow had not started, but the air carried its promise. "You've been busy," he said, noting the stacked wood. She shrugged. "Didn't want to waste the time." He nodded. Approval passed between them without a word. They sat near the fire as the first flakes drifted down, soft, almost gentle. The ridge did not always show its harsh side at once. "You asked if I chose this place," he said after a while. She looked up, surprised. She had not expected an answer. "I did," he went on, "after I learned I wasn't much good anywhere else." She waited. "I used to live among people," he said, "worked beside them, shared meals, shared plans." His eyes stayed on the fire. "I thought staying would make things right." It didn't. She felt the weight in his voice, the kind that came from carrying something too long. "So you left," she said. "Yes." "Running away?" He considered that. At first, then it became a promise. "To who?" "To myself." He spoke slowly, choosing each word. "Up here, there's no one to pretend for. The ridge doesn't care what you were, only what you do." She watched him as he spoke, the distance he kept, the care he took not to ask too much of her. She saw now that it wasn't coldness, it was caution. "You saved me last night," she said. He shook his head. "You were already saving yourself. I just didn't stand in the way." Snow began to fall thicker now, settling on the ground in quiet layers. The world seemed to narrow to the space between the fire and the shelter. "What happens when the storm passes?" she asked. He looked toward the ridgeline, now fading behind the snowfall. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you're running or looking for somewhere to stand." The words stayed with her long after he rose to check the shelter's supports. She sat there, listening to the fire crackle and the snow whisper against the earth. For the first time, the idea of staying did not feel like surrender. It felt like a question, and she was not ready to answer it yet. The storm stayed through the night, not fierce but steady, the kind that wore things down by refusing to leave.
She slept in short stretches, waking to the sound of wind against wood. Each time she opened her eyes, she expected the familiar panic to return. It did not. The shelter held. The fire left embers enough to keep the cold at bay. Morning brought a pale, uncertain light. She stepped outside and found the ridge wrapped in white. Every path she had walked was gone, covered, softened. The world looked clean in a way she did not trust. The man stood nearby, clearing snow from the shelter's edge. He looked up when he heard her. "It'll pass by midday," he said. "The ridge always settles after a storm like this." She nodded, but her chest felt tight. "I shouldn't be here," she said suddenly. He paused. "Why?" "Because places like this don't last, not for people like me." He studied her then, really studied her. "You don't know that." "I do," she said. Her voice shook. "Every time I think I've found solid ground, something reminds me I don't belong." She turned away, ashamed of the words even as they left her. The past had a way of finding cracks, slipping through when you least expected it. He did not follow her at once. She walked a short distance down the ridge, her boots sinking into fresh snow. Each step felt heavy, final. She stopped at the edge where the land dropped away toward the settlement below. "I should go," she whispered, "before I make things harder." Footsteps approached behind her, slow and unhurried. "You think leaving keeps you safe. It doesn't." She closed her eyes. Memories rose unbidden, promises broken, doors shut quietly as if she might not notice, people deciding her worth without ever asking her story. "I don't want to be a burden," she said. He stepped beside her, leaving a careful distance between them. "You're not." "I don't know that." "I know what burden looks like," he replied, "and this isn't it." She hugged herself, shaking now. The cold had found her again, or maybe it was something deeper. "I don't trust good things," she admitted. "They never stay." The wind lifted, carrying her words away. For a moment the ridge held its breath. He turned toward her, his expression steady but changed. "Then don't trust the good. Trust the choice." She looked at him, confused. "The choice to stay," he went on, "or the choice to leave. Either way, it should be yours." Her throat tightened. Tears threatened, hot and sudden. She took one step back, not away from him, but toward a decision she feared making.
She stood there, caught between the ridge and the man beside her. The wind pressed in, cold and insistent, as if urging her to move, to choose. Her breath came uneven now. The weight she had been holding finally began to shift, not away, down. "I don't know how to stay," she said. The words fell apart as soon as they left her mouth. "Every time I try, I lose something." He turned fully toward her. He did not speak. He did not reach out. He waited. That was what undid her. The tears came then, quiet at first. Her shoulders trembled as years of restraint gave way. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to stop the sound, trying not to be seen. But the ridge had seen her, and so had he. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "Tired of being strong when no one notices. Tired of carrying things that were never meant to be mine." Her knees weakened. She sank to the ground, the snow soaking into her clothes. She did not care. Cold no longer mattered. Only the ache in her chest did. "I had no one left," she said. "Not really. I kept telling myself I did, but I didn't." The man knelt in front of her, careful, deliberate. Close enough now that she could feel his presence, solid, real. "You're not broken for feeling this," he said. His voice was low, steady. "You're human." She shook her head. "I don't want to disappear." He held her gaze. "Then don't." The space between them closed slowly, not rushed, not forced. When his arms finally wrapped around her, it was with a gentleness that surprised them both. She stiffened for a heartbeat, then something inside her gave way. She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his chest. His coat smelled of pine and smoke, of the ridge itself. His arms stayed firm around her, anchoring her as the storm inside her finally broke free. She cried then, not loud, not wild, just honest. He did not tell her to stop. He did not tell her everything would be all right. He simply stayed. The snow fell around them, soft and endless. The ridge stood silent, bearing witness. When her breathing finally slowed, she realized something had changed. Not the past, not the world, but the way she stood in it. She pulled back slightly, wiping her eyes. He did not release her right away. Only when she nodded did he let his arms fall away. "You don't have to decide today," he said. She looked up at him, her eyes clear despite the tears. "But for the first time, I want to." And somewhere deep within the ridge, something old and quiet began to shift.
The days that followed were not marked by grand moments. They passed in small, careful steps, the kind that did not ask for promises. The storm moved on, leaving the ridge softened and bright beneath the sun. Snow melted into narrow streams that traced the land's memory. The world felt quieter, as if it were giving them room. She stayed, not because she had decided everything, not because her doubts had vanished, but because, for once, leaving felt heavier than remaining. They fell into a simple rhythm. He showed her where the ground held firm, where the wind cut least, where the ridge offered more than it took. She listened, learning the shape of the place through his words and her own footsteps. She helped when she could, gathering wood, mending small tears in cloth, keeping the fire fed. Each task reminded her that she still had something to give. At night, they sat near the flames. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they did not. Silence between them no longer felt empty. It felt earned. One evening, as the light faded, she broke the quiet. "I've never been good at staying," she said. He glanced at her, a faint smile touching his eyes. "No one is at first." She considered that. "What if I fail?" "You will," he said simply. "We all do." The honesty of it steadied her. "I don't want to disappear again," she said. "Then don't do it alone." The words settled deep. She began to sleep through the night. The tightness in her chest eased, not gone, but looser, more forgiving. The ridge no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a boundary she could lean against. One morning she stepped outside before he did. The air was crisp, the sky clear. She stood there, breathing it in, and realized she was not waiting for the day to end. When he joined her, she did not step away. "I think I can stay," she said, not as a question, not as a plea. He nodded. "Then we'll figure out the rest." She looked toward the ridgeline where the sun touched stone and snow alike. The place still held risks, still demanded respect, but it also offered something she had not felt in a long time: belonging. And as the light climbed higher, she understood that staying was not about never leaving. It was about choosing to remain, even when the old fears whispered otherwise. For the first time, she believed she could answer those whispers and be heard.
Spring came quietly to the ridge, not all at once, but in signs that asked to be noticed. Snow pulled back from the rocks, streams widened and sang softly as they ran. The air warmed just enough to remind the earth that it was time to wake. She noticed these things now, not as a visitor, not as someone waiting to leave, but as a part of the place itself. They worked side by side as the days lengthened. He showed her how to read the sky. She learned how the ridge spoke in small warnings and gentle approvals. In return, she brought something he had not known he was missing: laughter. It surprised them both the first time it happened, a quiet sound, brief and unsure. Then again, easier, lighter. It echoed against the trees, and neither of them hurried to stop it. They spoke more now, about small things, about hopes that felt safer when shared. He no longer watched the horizon as if expecting the past to return. She no longer flinched at the thought of tomorrow. One evening, as the sun settled low and warm, she stood beside him at the ridge's edge. "I used to think family was something you lost," she said, "something taken away." He looked at her, his expression gentle. "Sometimes it's something you build." She nodded. The truth of it filled her chest. There were no vows spoken, no promises made aloud. They did not need them. The ridge had taught them both that trust grew best when left unforced. That night, as the fire burned low, she leaned against him without thinking. He did not move away. His arm rested around her shoulders, steady and sure. It felt like home. Not the kind built in a single day, but the kind shaped by choice, by patience, by staying when leaving would have been easier. She had come to the ridge with nothing. Now she had someone who saw her, and a place that knew her footsteps. And the mountain man, who once chose the mountains to escape the world, discovered that the ridge had given him something far greater than solitude. It had given him family.
If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who might need it. Your support helps these quiet stories of hope and survival reach farther than the ridge itself. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part stayed with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're looking for more Old West tales of love, redemption, and second chances, be sure to check out the Rescued by the Ridge playlist. Until next time, may you find warmth, peace, and a place to belong.